Hello and welcome to day 27, which is part 2 on how your brain creates stress, anxiety and depression, and how it stops you achieving your goals. If you haven't seen yesterday's video, which was on Monday, which is day 26, go and watch it or none of this will make much sense. So we talked about how the limbic system and the amygdala send messages to the autonomic nervous system and release adrenaline. Now, this is when a fearful response occurs, i.e. a bear walks in the room. But the thing is, your adrenaline system releases adrenaline all the time. It will release adrenaline when you're running late for work. It will release adrenaline when you have a cup of coffee. It will release adrenaline when you've got an important meeting. It will release adrenaline when you are about to get up on stage in front of someone. It will release adrenaline when you're even thinking about that important meeting. Not only does it release adrenaline, it releases cortisol. Now, cortisol is the second drug here. That's hormone, sorry, not drug. That's important. It takes a little longer to release, and the reason it's released is it keeps the brain on high alert. So what happens is the brain releases adrenaline to deal with fear, and then it releases cortisol. Cortisol is in your body anyway. It releases some more cortisol to keep that brain on high alert looking for other fearful problems. So you've released all this adrenaline into your system. You've then released cortisol, which keeps you on high alert. So any other perceived threats that occur during the day, whether you're challenged at work, whether you're stuck in a traffic jam and you're going to be late, whether you're got a deadline, all these other things that the levels are already high, which can spike it again, which you get this fear, feeling anxious and stressed. Now, there's an important point here. The amygdala, which is in the limbic system, which is the emotional part of the memories of your brain. If something bad has happened to you in your life, so for example, you were nearly bitten by a snake as a child, so you have a fear of snakes. If you, when you watched, I hate to bring this up, 9/11, and you saw the planes crash, you think, ooh, plane. That's a big, strong emotional memory. When you almost got into a fight as a child, when you were shouted at for not performing very well at school, when you were told you were stupid, when you asked a question at school. All those things have been stored in the emotional bit of your memory, a bit with the hippocampus, not important, and those things are stored. However, what happens is when something happens that's similar, the amygdala fires the memory without conscious thought. So you hear a low-flying plane. You don't necessarily remember 9/11, but it can make you feel anxious. You are about to put your hand up in a meeting, but because you were shouted as a child, you don't even remember it, you feel anxious. Someone challenges you at work, maybe raises their voice, and your amygdala goes, oh, this happened before a fight broke out. You don't remember, and you feel anxious. It fires a set of adrenaline, and it gets your stress levels up again. Fires cortisol, getting stress levels up again. And as cortisol falls over the day, cortisol keeps the gas up, keeps you then looking for more stress all through the day. And as cortisol falls during the day, that seems to be when the inner voice, the editor, comes into play and all those negative thoughts seem to happen, which is why quite possibly at night you have things going around your head and worries because the cortisol levels are now falling. So you have this problem where adrenaline keeps you stressed. You then have the cortisol, which as it decreases, gives you negative thoughts, and then you spend your amygdala doesn't realize the difference between a memory and a real event. So what happens is if you then also are starting to panic about a meeting tomorrow or whatever, it's firing brains to your adrenaline system and your cortisol system to go, oh yeah, you need to be worried about this, because it doesn't realize it's not true. So you put that fear, it doesn't realize it's space or time, it doesn't really get, and therefore it starts to get up. So you start to feel stressed and anxious again. So all the things that are going on with adrenaline and cortisol are affecting your stress and anxiety levels without even conscious thought. Tomorrow, we'll start to look at how to solve that problem. Bye-bye.